So in this part 3 of a 4-part series, I'm going to go through some of the actions that we took with the case I've been talking about in the first couple of videos regarding stalking. We'll call the employee Chris, and Chris had multiple complaints against him by primarily female employees and coworkers who alleged that he had stalked them. I'm Nancy Schick of 30 Year Conflict Resolution, where we take a holistic approach to resolving workplace disputes, including things like stalking complaints. And so during the impartial investigation, which I talked a little bit about in the last video, how to do one. Now we're going to talk about what the results were after I did my investigation. So as I mentioned, there were multiple complainants and there were several witnesses. So I interviewed them and they each confirmed that Chris had waited for females after work, had tried to talk to them, sit next to them in meetings, etc. One even said she had been chatting with him on social media until she realized that he was the, quote, weird guy from work. Now, interestingly, another witness described Chris as weird. And then I talked to a supervisor who said Chris was starting to miss work, miss deadlines. And this supervisor said, oh, thank goodness. This means it'll probably be a lot easier to fire him, and then we won't have to deal with all of these stalking complaints. Problem solved, right? In the supervisor's mind. But no, that was not a problem solved. So, of course, I still interviewed Chris. And what I learned was Chris was neurodivergent and had a disability accommodation letter on file. So yeah, he was to some people a little weird. He had a different way of socializing than some of his coworkers. And when it came to dating, which any person of his age and being an adult male, he wanted to date, but he didn't really know how to do it. So remember that first video where I said, where do a lot of us learn? Through TV and movies that are not exactly the best sources of how to set up a dating situation effectively. Well, that's where Chris had been learning. So I started to see that the discrimination may have been occurring in both directions. So there was some potential gender discrimination that we had to address, and Chris needed to be aware that his behavior might be inching into unlawful stalking and definitely inappropriate in the workplace. But we also had to talk to the other employees who were basically discriminating against him because of his disability. So in the next video, I'm going to talk about how we resolved that conflict. So make sure you hit that subscribe button below. If you're dealing with something like this right now and would like a little bit more hand-holding during your investigation, then I'm also going to put a link in the notes to the video so you can set up that consultation. In the meantime, of course, keep listening with your third ear. For those hurts, you can heal.